Before he was 21, he flew across the world pretending to be an airline pilot, without ever taking a single flying lesson. He doctored babies as a pediatrician, without attending medical school. He prosecuted real criminals, without having a law degree. He wrote $2.5 million in fake checks, and still managed to be hired by the FBI. This isn't a movie. This is the true story of the most brilliant con artist America has ever seen. Frank Abagnale Jr. In 2002, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks brought his story to the big screen in Catch Me If You Can. But what you might not know is that the real Frank Abagnale's life was even more shocking, daring, and unbelievable than Hollywood could ever portray. Today, we're diving into the full story, from his first fake check to becoming the FBI's top fraud expert. It's a tale of deception, charm, genius, and ultimately, redemption. So buckle in, because you're about to hear how one teenager fooled the entire world. Frank William Abagnale Jr. was born in 1948 in Bronxville, New York. He idolized his father, a successful businessman who taught him the art of persuasion. Frank was intelligent, well-spoken, and charismatic. But when his parents divorced when he was just 16, something inside him broke. Caught between two homes and no longer believing in authority, Frank ran away from home with only $200. He needed a way to survive, but instead of looking for a job, he created one. He started small, altering the numbers on checks. Then he opened fake bank accounts using false identities. But Frank wasn't just a con artist. He was a visionary with a flair for performance. If the world wasn't going to offer him a future, he'd make one up. One day, Frank noticed how airline pilots were treated with immense respect. They stayed in the best hotels, never paid for food, and flew for free. That's when it hit him. Why not become one? He called Pan Am pretending to be a pilot who had lost his uniform. They directed him to their uniform supplier. Soon, Frank had a full Pan Am outfit. He forged a pilot ID and even studied aviation manuals from the library. He wasn't interested in flying planes. He wanted the perks. Using a method called deadheading, Frank flew in cockpits across the country, claiming to be a co-pilot repositioning for duty. He flew over 1 million miles, visited 26 countries, and stayed in luxury hotels, all without spending a dime. No one ever asked for credentials. Why would they? He looked the part. He spoke the part. He was the part. Until he wasn't. When things got too hot in the air, Frank set his sights on land and on medicine. He rented an apartment in Georgia next to a doctor who assumed Frank worked at the hospital. Instead of denying it, Frank leaned in. He created a fake Harvard medical diploma and got hired as a night shift supervisor at the hospital. He never performed surgery or diagnosed an illness, but he did supervise real interns. And for nearly a year, no one suspected a thing. But fate caught up with him. One night, a baby almost died under his watch. Frank, shaken, realized his game could hurt people. He quit immediately and disappeared. Once more. Yet the thrill of living someone else's life never left him. Frank's next disguise, an attorney for the Louisiana State Attorney General's office. He forged a Harvard law degree and talked his way into an interview. But to actually practice law, he needed to pass the Louisiana bar exam. So he studied hard. And on his third attempt, Frank passed. For 8 months, he worked as a legal assistant, charming co-workers and dodging questions. Eventually, a suspicious colleague contacted Harvard. The truth unraveled fast. Once again, Frank vanished. Behind every identity, Frank's primary hustle was check fraud. He created fake checks using printing equipment, magnetic ink, and blank forms stolen from banks and airlines. He used over 8 aliases, forged countless documents, and amassed over $2.5 million. the equivalent of over 20 million today. His secret weapon wasn't technology, it was human trust. He once walked into a bank dressed as a security guard and asked to collect the night deposit drop box. The bank handed it over, no questions asked. He didn't outsmart machines. He outsmarted people. But the FBI was closing in. One man, in particular, Agent Joe Shea, the real-life agent behind Tom Hanks's character in Catch Me If You Can. Shea made it his mission to catch Frank. For years, Frank stayed one step ahead. He changed names, professions, and countries with ease. But in 1969, while hiding in France, he slipped. A former girlfriend, a Pan Am stewardess, recognized his face from a wanted poster and alerted the police. Frank was arrested and imprisoned in France, where he served time in a squalid jail cell before being extradited to Sweden, then to the US. He was finally sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. At just 21 years old, his journey had ended, or so it seemed. Frank didn't serve all 12 years. After just 5 years, the US government offered him a deal. Work with the FBI to catch check forgers like himself and go free. Frank accepted. Over the next 4 decades, he became one of the most respected fraud prevention consultants in the world. He founded Abagnale and Associates, helping banks and businesses detect and prevent fraud. His lectures were standing room only. His charm was undimmed. But now it served a different cause: redemption. Today, Frank Abagnale speaks with honesty about his past, not to glorify it, but to warn others. He regrets the hurt he caused. He admits his actions were selfish, reckless, and criminal. But he also believes that people can change, that broken kids can rebuild, that con men can become men of character. As Frank once said, there's no magic, there's only confidence. People will believe anything if you tell them with certainty. In the end, it was that same certainty, once used to lie, that helped him tell the truth. Frank Abagnale Jr.'s story is not just about fraud. It's about intelligence misused, youth misdirected, and the long road to redemption. He fooled the world as a boy, then helped protect it as a man. Because sometimes, the best teacher of deception is the one who once lived by it.